In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Commander Neyo for the Black Series 3 3/4 inch line. And if I recall correctly, I think he's figure number 16 in the line. And this is the orange and black packaging back around the end of 2013 and 14. So I think this is probably one of the more interesting clone commanders that we've gotten from Hasbro over the years, and mainly because he's the only episode 3 clone that I can think of that actually got updated in this TVC style body. Commander Bly, Cody, Bakara, of course Captain Jag. At least I think that's the clone who ends up shooting down Plo Koon's starfighter. None of them have had updates over the years, so this is the only one we got. I think Neyo here was supposed to be in TVC 1.0 at the time, but of course it was carried forward into the Black Series. So it's a pretty unique action figure, and they actually gave him some personality, mainly with the head sculpt underneath the helmet. And he has a really nice weathering on his armor. It's probably some of the best I've ever seen on a Clone Trooper action figure. And I think this is one of the few Phase 2 clones where the Phase 1 style body actually fits with just the overall look for him. Oftentimes, I understand that both technically the Phase 1 armor and the Phase 2 armor are the exact same. The only difference is the helmet. But Hasbro did style Phase 1 and Phase 2 a specific way that just seems to fit with both. And this is the Phase 1 style body that was carried over to Phase 2 here, and I think it looked pretty good. And I think this Commander Neyo is actually an upgrade from the one we got before that was in the 30th anniversary line and the Legacy collection, I think. So I have one of these extra Stalacomai or 91st Reconnaissance clones here. And even though this is technically just a standard clone, Neyo at the same time used the same exact body. In fact, it was the same exact action figure. The only difference is Hasbro added some leathering to Neyo. But you can see there is a significant enough difference between both action figures. And I like them both. I'm glad I own both. But I do think this one for Neyo specifically looks much better. And I'm glad that he's... I have quite a few of the 91st Reconnaissance, so Neyo here is pretty distinguished from the rest of them. And I personally like having my clone commanders and captains kind of distinguished from the rest, just so they stand out a little bit better. So what else can I say about this? So I actually got this action figure all the way back at the time he was released. And I got him the same exact time as I did Luminara. And I think I mentioned that in the Luminara review I did previously. So he's been in my collection for about 10 years now, and I'm proud to have him in my collection. If you don't know a whole lot about Neyo, obviously he's the clone commander we see during Order 66, and he's the one that ends up, or he's on the speeder bike, and he ends up taking out Stas Alil. And that's the only time we really see him in the movie. And in the Clone Wars series, unfortunately, all he got was just a small cameo during the, what was it, that one episode, or that one episode arc where it was the, what was it, the 5 astromech droids, and then it would eventually lead into Commando Gregor. He's basically the one who introduced the droids to this mission. I don't think he really spoke or anything, he just kind of stood in the background. I wish the Clone Wars has expanded on some of the Episode 3 clones more. From my understanding, Dave Filoni likes to focus more on his creations more than the established ones. So unfortunately, Bakara, Neyo, and even Bly to an extent, they kind of took the back burner. Kind of hard to dismiss on Cody, on Commander Cody though, so he got a little bit more attention than the rest. So one more thing I'll mention about Neyo. From my understanding, he's probably one of the more lethargic clone commanders out there, meaning he's not very emotionally attached to his men, I suppose. So if he has a high casualty count, he's not really concerned by it. And he'll just throw his troops in the battle, and whatever happens, happens, and he really has no remorse over it. Or at least that's how his character is written. So, pretty dangerous clone to serve under, I suppose. Similar to Bakara, where they're known for high casualties, but it sounds like they're pretty effective, just based upon how the stories are written. So let's just go ahead and take a closer look at them. I suppose is he's pretty simple. There's really not a whole lot with him. Everything you see here is basically all he has. This is his only accessory, just a standard DC-15 rifle here. But mainly it's just the uniqueness about this. Like I said, this is the only Episode 3 clone that actually got updated back in the day. We haven't seen any of the other ones since, unless it was in the Black Series, of course. It is the skinnier mold, which I think for Neyo, it works just fine. He seemed to have a little bit of that skinny look to him anyway, so I think this works out great. And it would make him fit a lot easier on a speeder bike if you decide you want to do that. And there is a speeder bike set out there with Neyo and a 91st Reconnaissance clone, and I'm trying to think. I don't think it came with Stas Ali, but it is possible. And I do have Stas Ali as well as an action figure from the Legacy collection, and at some point soon I do plan on getting around to her. So the helmet sculpt is really good. This is during an era where many of the Clone Trooper helmets are oversized. That's not the case for Neyo here. I think his helmet is pretty spot on. I suppose it's a tad larger than what it should really be, but it's not bad at all. I think it's as good as it can get. Has his markings on here, has some nice weathering on it. Has a very unique clone helmet that we only see with this particular Legion. Has some nice black markings on it. Interesting visor there, and his mouth visor, I suppose. It's more dotted. It doesn't look like it's totally even either with the shape of that chin there. But it's hardly noticeable. If you look at it from a distance, most people will never pick up on that. So like I mentioned, he does have a removable helmet and a very unique head sculpt that we've never seen on another clone before. And I suppose this is what Commander Neyo is supposed to look like. I don't know what source material Hasbro got this from. I actually didn't know what Neyo specifically looked like until this action figure came out back in the day. So I wonder if they got this from some comic or some concept art or something. So he has a little bit longer hair compared to most clones. Slicked back. Looks pretty good. Pretty good head sculpt. It looks exactly like Tamora Morrison, I think. And he does have a face tattoo there, which I think that might be his clone number or something like that. It's either lettering or numbers. It's hard to tell. You have to have a magnifying glass, I think, to really see the detail on it. But the fact that it is that detailed is very impressive. That spot under his eye there, that's just something specific to my sample, but you know, I personally have kind of liked it over the years. It just kind of adds some character to him. Like he has, I don't know, I kind of look at it as like him being rough and ready, I suppose. Like battle damage or something like that. So I don't think we've ever seen this clone head sculpt on any other action figure, so it is totally specific to Neyo, as far as I know. And it turned out really good. And the helmet fits pretty good on his head. So he does have this pauldron here, I guess, and it is attached to his belt. Kind of similar to like Captain Fordo and what was it, Mace Windu's Attack Battalion, I think, has this as well. And there's a couple other clones out there. The belt is not removable at all, so it's just there. He has that 91st Reconnaissance symbol there, and on his arm, and on his thigh. So the weathering, as you can see, it's very unique weathering. As far as his shoulders are concerned, this one's red, and then this one's supposed to be white, but it's totally like he was blasted through a sandstorm or something like that. So both biceps there are totally weathered and sanded, basically. His forearms are much lighter. They do have some weathering on it, though. That's the comlink sculpted right there. Then same thing for his legs. They have very nice weathering on this. It's type of weathering we really don't see on Clone Trooper action figures very much. And this is during an era where Hasbro's just beginning to starting to kind of cheapen out on the 3 3/4 inch figures. So I'm glad that they basically went all out for this guy. Looks pretty good. It's not totally consistent all the way throughout, especially in the arms here. But you know what? That doesn't bother me at all. It looks realistic. It looks really good. I like everything about it. Same thing with his torso. It has a lot of nice weathering on there. And same with his back. They didn't cheapen out on this either. Sometimes when they do weathering, it's just on the front side of a figure, but they did it all the way throughout. His articulated points, though, especially at the hinges, are just painted in solid black all the way through. But again, I don't think that's really a big deal for this action figure. It kind of gives it some character, I suppose. And it looks alright for Neyo. In terms of articulation, he's super articulated all around. He has the ball joint, the head, and hinged shoulders. Kind of restricted though, I suppose if you push his shoulder armor in, you might be able to get some more articulation out of that. But I've never really been able to do that, and I don't really want to potentially smush that in or anything. He does have hinge at the elbow though, and then hinged wrists. This one goes up and down. This one goes in and out. I kind of wish it was the other way around, or swapped between the wrists. This one should go up and down, and this one should go in and out. Because chances are he's going to be, unless he is left-handed, which is possible. But he does have the joint, the torso, kind of restricted though because of that pauldron, but it's not too big of a deal. And then he does have the hinged hips, and then hinged knees, and the hinged ankles. So really good articulation all around for this guy. Then in terms of accessories, like I said, he just comes with the standard DC-15 rifle, and absolutely nothing unique about this. And no other accessories. When he was packed on the card, it was just the figure, then that one rifle off to the side, and that was it. Which I can't really think of any other accessories that really need to come with Neyo anyway. We never even see him with a rifle at all in the movie, if I recall correctly. I suppose they could have done a speeder bike set, but Hasbro really wasn't doing a lot of vehicles or anything at this point. But yeah, that's pretty much all I can tell you about Commander Neyo here. This guy, I'll give his overview at some point, but you can get a little bit of a preview as to what they look like side by side. Obviously, Neyo here with this sculpt is a little bit taller. But I think the proportions on this one are pretty good. So would I recommend this Commander Neyo for your collection? I totally would, and I think he's not too bad in price either. Last I checked, Tungori usually has them in stock quite a bit, and I think he's usually like $18 on Tungori's site, so not too bad for this at all. And it's usually in plentiful supply. On eBay, it's been a little bit since I checked the prices, but when I have, I don't recall being appalled by the prices of it. So if you really want this guy for your collection and you don't have him yet, I would suggest you jump on it. I think it's one of the best Phase 2 clone commanders that we've ever got from Hasbro for the overall sculpt and just the amount of weathering and detail that it's in his armor. And of course, this Commander Neyo, he's one of the most famous clone commanders from Revenge of the Sith. He's part of that group. So if you're a clone fan, you definitely need him for your collection. As far as recommending the older Neyo or the newer one, in this case, I would actually say get the newer one. I don't think he's going to get a TVC release at this point. If Hasbro was going to do it, I think they would have already done it. But never say never. It would be nice to get a Troop Builder pack of maybe like Neyo, Bakara, Cody, Bly, all in one. And then they're all updated, of course, but I don't know if Hasbro really will do that. But we'll see. As far as Neyo's concerned, this might be the definitive Commander Neyo that we're going to get. and we'll probably ever get. Maybe a Black Series release of him will happen someday, but as far as 3 3/4 inch is concerned, this is probably the one to get. But yeah, an action figure I cherish greatly in my collection, and probably one of my favorite Clone Trooper action figures I own in my collection. But anyways, that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for plenty more reviews in the future. There will always be lots more to come. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I always greatly appreciate all your support. And check out some of the links in the description if you have not done so already. And as always, thanks for watching.